Hey there, and welcome to another video with me. I'm going to talk to you today about ratio adapters. Now, ratio adapters come in a varying degree of sizes, shapes, uh, tip sizes, everything. There's all sorts of stuff. So I keep getting asked people keep asking me what do they need, what do they need to have, what goes in what. So this video is going to try and explain a little bit of that. So the first thing that you need to know is ratio. So what I mean by ratio, one revolution in versus revolution out. So I'm going to use this as an adapter. This is a 1-to-1, so we'll just use that. So one revolution in equals one revolution out. Okay? But with something like this is a 2000 ratio, so one revolution in will be 2 out. And if you have one that's a 0.5, it's one revolution in and half a revolution out. So that's really important for, depending on what you're using them for. The big chunky right angle stuff here, they're used for things in industrial applications, wireline, oil and gas, that kind of stuff. The straight dual drive stuff, they are also used in the oil field industries. Then you have the generic straight through or offset, and these are primarily for automotive applications. So that being said, what size do I need? Things like that. So the most common drive size for anything for automotive use, so that's Chrysler, GM, Ford, is going to be this. It's called a 104 square. Now, when I say 104 square, I mean that in, let's zero that, in inches, as a decimal. Well, they're never going to get exactly the same, but like it's showing 0.101 somewhere else, it might do 0.102 kind of thing. Yeah, there you go. But the standard size is 104 square. Now, those go into the opposite side like that. These are the tips. These are the male and female sides. The female sides are going to be a smidgen bigger, like 105 kind of thing, just to accommodate the tips, just like that. And like I said, that's going to be in your standard adapters like this, going into, say, an old Chevy or a Ford or anything like that. You'll have the tip sticking out of the nut like that, and you'll have the other side sticking out like that, so you can put your cable into. Easy, easy. Now, another step up from that is 0.156. It's very uncommon. Like I said, it's very uncommon, but it is used sometimes. 156 is primarily used in aviation, but we're not going to talk about aviation today. After that is 187 and 203. So these are very, very fat, thick tangs. So let's hit 2 of them here. So they both look basically the same. They're a little a little circle with a little nubbin sticking out of it, kind of thing. And that's the female version of it. And like I said, it's a little. Let's see. I probably got the wrong one. That's a tight fit. Yeah, there we go. Helps when you put the right side in. So like I said, 187 to 187. Again, this is going to be a little fatter, like 190, that kind of thing. And it fits like that, and that's how it turns like that. And like I said, this stuff is used more in industrial applications, so things like oil and gas, wireline, such and such like that. So that's your basics of your sizes and whatnot. You got your square stuff. Let's see if I can put it on camera. Yeah. So it's your square stuff and your tang stuff. So all you got to remember is if it's square, it's usually in something more less intense, automotive, that kind of thing. If it's a circle with a tang on it, it's more industrial based. So, that being said, we do have different types of adapters. Okay? So, we'll start with the automotive. Automotive, your very basic one, is going to go like that. It's your standard straight through adapter. You can make this in ratios anywhere from 0.3352, so 1 revolution in, and 0.3352 of a revolution out, all the way to 2.9833. So 1 revolution in and almost 3 out. And almost every single thing you can get in between. Now, most of the time they're straight like this, but sometimes they're like that. Now, it doesn't change the ratio, it doesn't change anything about it. All it does is just change the direction of it going. And sometimes you need this when, say, you're trying to put it into something and you get a cross beam in the way for your cable, so it interferes, so you need to kind of tilt things away, tilt things around, that kind of stuff. The step up from that, of course, is a dual drive. So when I say dual drive, it's 1 in, 2 out. So this one, because it's this same kind of configuration, you can still get the same ratios of anywhere from 0.33 to almost 3.0. So like I said, whatever goes in is going to come out to whatever the ratio you configured it to. This one is a 1-to-1 because this one's configured for wireline applications. But like I said, 1 revolution in, 1 out, 1 out. Now, it is possible to have each one of these outputs a different output, but the ratio selection for this is much more limited because the gears still have to mesh. And like I see this chart here, you got all sorts of different gear numbers and so on and so forth for making which ratios. Some just plain will not fit together. If you're trying to do, like this one is a 1-to-1 and then this one as a 2, you're not going to be able to do that. Just purely because the central gear needs to be able to mesh with both of the gears on the shaft. So a lot of the times what this is it's going to be mirroring the output. It's going to be the exact same on both. Step up from that, well, maybe not a step up, but something different. These are right angles. So a lot of the times these are used in the oil and gas wireline industry, but they're also used in automotive as well. Because sometimes you need to put it in and you need to direct the cable away. Just away entirely because it just, pops it out of the way. The ratios for these are less available purely because of how size, different ratios available. It's more industrial and you don't need such fine increments for industrial stuff like this. But like I said, 1 in, 1 out, 1 in, 2 out, 1 in, half out, kind of depends entirely on what you select for your ratio. Now these are, again, you can pin them in 104 square if you want to, for 1-to-1 kind of thing, just to get your cable out of the way and your old GM kind of thing. But 9 times out of 10, they are configured in the tang configuration, just because they are going to be going into more industrial application. Now the step up from that are dual drive 90s. So these ones are a little different, but not so much. So remember how I told you you can't split the outputs on this? You can on this. However, you are always limited for the 1 ratio. This one will always be 1-to-1. There's no getting around that because it's the same shaft going in as going out. So this one will always be 1 revolution in, 1 revolution out. The way you can change that is on the secondary shaft. You can make this one a 2 or a 0.5 or a 0.666 or a whatever you want, really. But that's the only way you can get kind of a dual output configuration, is if you use the 90-degree configuration, purely because the one central shaft is always going to be 1-to-1. And then you can just make this one whatever you want. So if I transplanted this one, which is a 2-to-1, or sorry, a 2000 ratio, so 1 in, 2 out, into this, it will work, but it's the wrong shaft. But the gearing will still work, and one side will still be 1-to-1, one side will be 2. Clear as mud. I hope it's a little clear for you, but you know, kind of go from there. The nut sizes are almost exclusively 7/8 18 thread and nut. It's a very universal size. The metric equivalent to that is M22 by 1.5. It's very uncommon unless you're using metric tips. And what I mean by metric tips, I'm just going to pull a couple out of the drawer here. Metric tips are stuff like paddles. So paddle stuff in North America is very uncommon. It happens sometimes. And a lot of times when you see it, it'll have these configurations, but it'll still have imperial nuts and imperial threading. But it'll have metric tips. I don't like using them, but sometimes, you know, you kind of gotta do what you gotta do, right? Like, it all depends on what your application is. I always advise people to change it to the imperial stuff just purely because there's more availability, more adaptability. It's just more common to find that stuff. Again, in Europe, the Middle East, Africa, a little bit, you're going to find more of the metric stuff. It's just kind of what caught on there, and you know, as things age out, people are replacing stuff with the imperial stuff purely because it's just more available, more ready. You know, it's about as clear as I can make that. And yeah, just to recap, you got your straight throughs, your offsets, your dual drives, your right angles, your right angle dual drives. One thing we're actually kind of in the middle of developing. We're developing a triple output on the dual drives here. So one in, and then you get like a T configuration out. What that does is gives you differing, I don't think I can do it, but one goes clockwise, one goes counterclockwise with rotation. Kind of depends on what your application is, of course, because some digital encoders for wireline stuff, they will take the input one way but not the other, but the other thing has to count the one way. Yeah, it's a bit of a mess. So because there's also different ways these can be assembled, which give the same rotation, opposite rotation. I could go on and on about that stuff, but that'll be for another video. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of ratio adapters here. Like I said, you get the different sizes, different configurations. I will leave a link in the description to a lot of these products here. As always, leave a comment if you had any questions. I try to get to everyone as much as I can. And until the next time, have a good one.